you decide to go ahead with a wedding this year and masks are mandatory, then these are just some tips that helped me. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, but you can call me Chanty. The intro to this video is a little different from the rest of it. That's because I filmed everything. Well, I somehow managed to delete the intro from my files. You'll see at the start of my video that I already have my eyes done. That's just because that didn't really matter for making my makeup mask proof because that wasn't covered by the mask anyways. I think that's it, and all other information should be included in the video. Hope you guys enjoy. Now, I already prepped my face with moisturizer. I used a little bit extra on the day of than I normally would have, and I let it sit for 15 minutes before I started my makeup, and I also blotted off any excess moisturizer just to make sure that my skin was nice and plump and full, and really just to give the products that I used the best chance at staying. So then I followed up with the e.l.f. Poreless Primer. I actually bought this on a friend's recommendation for the wedding. Next, for foundation, I used my Tarte Amazonian Clay in the color Light Neutral. And with my foundation, I started out in the center on my nose because that's where the most redness is on my face. I don't have that much redness on the outer corners. It all is kind of centered in this area around my nose and eyes. So I really wanted to focus the bulk of the foundation in this area. You can also tell from the products that I've used, if you look back on my old videos, these are all products that I use all the time and I trust and have trusted for a while. I did not have this pimple on the day of. Very blessed. I didn't have any extra pimples. My skin really behaved. But I did a lot to make sure that that happened too. Leading up to, I drank like a gallon of water a day, and I've been sticking to a regimented skin routine for like a year leading up to the wedding. After my foundation was done, I went in with my Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue Concealer. So once again, I didn't want to use a lot of product, so I just put a dot close to the side of my eye and just on this outer edge here. And then with my finger, I patted it out and just tried to keep it below the eye area and not drag it down too much. The day of my wedding, I was really going for like a natural glam. Now, as I mentioned before, I didn't actually have any spots on the day of my wedding. I was very lucky in that way, but if I had, my plan had been to take the Tarte Shape Tape Concealer. I find this one has a bit of a yellow hue to it, so it kind of cancels out the redness. So that would have been my plan, to just take the Tarte concealer, and that's what I'm going to do for this spot here. I really wanted as close to a natural look as I could get with using full coverage makeup, so I didn't bother with contouring on the day of my wedding. My next step was to use a loose setting powder, and I used the Ciate Everyday Vacay powder, and I just took a little bit and just kind of dropped it over the areas that I wanted and dusted it in the center areas of the face where there's likely to be the most transfer. And I didn't take too much. I took just a little bit because I didn't want it to fully set. I have very dry skin, so I try not to use setting powder that often just because it can actually end up drying out my makeup and just making it look cracked and crepey. As I mentioned, I wanted it to stay as much as possible, so to give it its best chance, I just used a little bit of setting powder to just set everything. But again, I just kept it more towards the center part of my face and on my under eyes. Now for bronzer and blush, I dipped into my iconic London Blaze Chaser face palettes. I didn't want anything too shimmery or shiny, so I stuck with this bronzer and this blush for my look. Now there's not too much about using these that I feel like contributed to making my makeup mask proof, so I'm just gonna do my blush and bronzer off camera. I'll be right back to show you highlighter. So we are back and my bronze and blush is complete. Now I just want to quickly show you for highlight. I'm using the Smashbox Spotlight Gold palette and I'm just using this highlighter right here. So when I was doing my highlighter, this part of my eyes peek out, so I wanted to make sure to place it a little higher than I normally would, just to add appearance of definition at a higher angle. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. Now the other thing I did was to make sure that I put a little bit of highlight on the bridge of my nose here, but not on the tip of my nose because that will likely get rubbed off anyways. Once that was complete, I used my Ciate Everyday Vacay setting spray, and I just sprayed that 4 times on each side of my face. So forehead, cheek, cheek, center. Now for lips, I used the Maybelline matte lipstick color Touch of Spice. And once I had that applied, I did another spray to the center of my face. Now my makeup was the first thing I did on my wedding day. I did it before I did my hair, I did it before I got into my dress. So after application, I did move around a little bit and became a little sweaty. So any moments where I felt like I was starting to get oil buildup or I was starting to sweat, I took a little bit of my setting powder and I reapplied it, and then I would seal it in with setting spray afterwards. I did this about 2 times in the 4-hour span from when I applied my makeup to when I left for the wedding. And once I got to the Cambridge Mill, I didn't do anything to spruce up my look. I probably should have, but I was just so focused on the fact that I was getting married that I didn't care. All my worry went into before I was at the actual wedding location with my fiance, because we did a first reveal before we did the actual ceremony. So I'll just show you what it looked like with the mask on. So as you can see, I have a lot of coverage, but you can still see the highlighter that I applied in the bridge of my nose here, and you still have a really nice view of my lashes. I really wanted all of the drama to be on my eyes just because of this, and I just was really careful in my placement of it and taking it off as well to make sure that I wasn't rubbing it unnecessarily, and it worked really well. I will include any pictures that I have that were either taken by family members who were allowed to be there or by the photographer herself. She has sent us some teasers that I'm going to include in here. If you decide to go ahead with a wedding this year and masks are mandatory, then these are just some tips that helped me. I managed to make my makeup last for 10 hours, just being super diligent in those first 4 hours when I could control it. That's just what I did on my wedding day. Something that I would have done differently was I would have brought my pure pressed mineral makeup with a brush just to touch up my nose, because that definitely did lose the most foundation. Luckily, it wasn't super obvious, and because the tip of my nose is already so shiny, it just looked like I had highlighter on the tip of my nose. If you have oily skin or combination skin where oily is focused in the center, I would definitely recommend having some sort of pressed mineral powder or powder foundation to touch up those areas, or maybe even a translucent setting powder to keep it in place, as long as you can stay on top of it. Now, if you're not doing your own makeup and you're able to hire someone to do it, when signing them on, make sure to ask if they'll be supplying you with product that you can use to touch up your makeup. Comment down below if you guys would be interested in hearing about my pandemic wedding experience, because let me tell you, my wedding was nothing like what I thought it was going to be when I got engaged in 2018, but it was still such a wonderful day, and I'm really glad that I went ahead with it. Now, if you like this video, if you like my vibe, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take it easy.